Okay, hello everyone. It's a pleasure for me to be here. It is an amazing event for us. My name is Maria del Mar Ravelo. I am project manager in Institute Colombia. And now we are pleased to introduce Andre Castañeda. He is a group lead manager, LATAM, Iberia, and Belgium for Synlab International. Andre brings extensive expertise in lean healthcare. And today they will share their unique insight on improving experience at blood collection points. Without further ado, I'll hand it over to Andre. Welcome, Andre.
Gracias, Maria. Hello, everyone from snowy Munich. Let me just share my presentation. So, as Maria was saying, I will share about the experience thinking lean in our blood collection points. Blood collection points, BCP as we mentioned it, and as I will refer to it during the presentation. So, I just jump into introducing what is Synlab. What's Synlab? So basically, Synlab is a laboratory. We are a medical provider of diagnosis. We do things a standard blood test, like an hemogram, and we also have more complex tests, such a full genetic map on a prenatal. In total, we have over 5,000 different tests that we do. And with all this catalog, actually, we are positioned as #1 in Europe. Even though we are mainly based in Europe, we have an important activity, for example, in LATAM, in Latin America, and that's the reason why I'm here, because I'm going to share a use case from LATAM. Let me go back a little bit in the story. So since our beginning in 2014, we have faced two main challenges because we grow basically through acquisitions. We face the challenge of standardize our operations around the same principles and standard of quality. Also, besides our acquisition model, we grow and we force ourselves to grow at least 3% per year. So having these two big challenges on mind, in 2018, around 2018, we launched our Lean journey. We say, okay, let's try it out. Let's see what we can, how Lean can support us in our laboratory activities to support those two challenges. So we started as many starts, as many of our stories starts in the Lean journey. We start by doing by experimenting. So we selected the first pilot, and then we start doing some experiments, trying to understand how we could bring lean thinking to the lab. And that was at the beginning of 2018, and very close to that, at the October 2018, we came already to Colombia in LATAM, and we start doing this pilot in Colombia. Once we have the first learnings, the first, let's say, results, once we had this first idea of how to do it, we then structure our program, which we call STS, Synlab Transformation System, and we roll it out. And we just went to the countries and roll it out. In that moment, we touched, for example, in Latin Peru, but we also came in more other countries around Europe. And we just start deploying our program and training and selecting our first group of change leaders. And then COVID came, 2021, COVID came. And also, besides COVID, we already had 1 year and a half, maybe 2 years of experience. We have already a lot of learnings, more complex situations. And so our program started to enlarge. So we have different approaches and different contexts, different challenges, and many different ways to do lean in the lab. So we start to grow, let's say, in this way to do lean. We saw a big difference in our maturity level at that stage. And now, let's say at the moment that we are today, 2023, we are gathering again all those learnings. We are every time, let's say, more and more working with our different stakeholders, with our IT departments, with our technical support departments, well, putting all the actors, let's say, around our transformation. And we are planning now what is going to be 2024 and even 2028. So we are planning ahead for the following years. This year in 2023, just coming back to Latam, we impacted in Mexico and we started our, let's say, lean journey in Mexico at the beginning of this year. So just to give you some numbers of our journey that you can see here in the table at the right side of the slides, this is, well, in number of, in terms of people that we have impacted with our training and our thinking. Let's go now to what is a BCP and why it is important for us to work in a BCP, in a blood collection point. So in Synlab, we collected samples from different customers, type of customers. We have our hospitals, for instance, but we also have doctors, and we have another labs. We can collect samples from different labs, and we have our blood collection points. Contrary to all the others, a BCP, a blood collection point, is the only, let's say, is the only input in which we are in contact direct with the final patient. And as our mission is to improve the experience of the final patient, then BCP is the place to be, because it's the one in which we touch directly the final patient. And this is why in all our network, in all Synlab, working and thinking lean in a blood collection point is a key pillar of our transformation. Besides our activity and operations in the labs, we have a big focus on our BCPs. And here in the right side of the slide, I'm just sharing our process. So how is the process in a BCP? Let's say this is a very systematic way to describe the process. So we register the person who comes, I take your data, then I'm taking the blood, I prepare the sample that I took from you, and finally I ship it, I prepare it and ship it to the main lab, which where it's going to be processed. So now I would like to share about 2 use cases that we have this year in Latin America. And there are big different. There are things, different things in each one. The first one is going to be from Colombia, in Cali, concretely in the city of Cali, southwest of the country, and which is a, let's say, complete transformation. Let's call it that way, complete transformation. And the second one is the result of a Kaizen event that we did 1 month ago in Mexico City, in a BCP, in a blood collection point. And this one, we don't have yet the results, the impacts, but there are a couple of, let's say, ideas or challenges that we face, which I think are very interesting to share with you. So let's start with the Colombian case. This is Colombia. This is the context. We have a major customer in Colombia, in the southwest of the country. And we were seeing an increase in the complaints from this customer from 2021 to 2022, year 2022. And the complaints were, most of them were all related to the time that a patient spent in the BCP. Of course, as it was a major customer, as you can see, 74% of our, let's say, volumes come from this customer, a B2B, then it was a major concern, because we could lose that customer at the end. So as we didn't have the data, let's say a KPI or regular information on that, so we collected the first information, and we actually saw this graph that you see at the right of the slide. And let me just point at it with my mouse. Good. And what we saw here actually is that, yeah, we confirm actually what the complaints were saying, were saying is that 50% of the customers in most of the sites having this customer actually, 50% of the patients spent over 30 minutes. 30 minutes being our target. So the objective was clear. We need to improve that situation. And what we set as a target for this transformation in the BCP was to have at least 97% of the patient see or spend time in the BCP in less than 30 minutes. So that was our main challenge. With this in mind, we do what we usually do in Lean. So go and see. We went and we saw and we draw a value stream. And what came out of this value stream, actually, I have those two pictures. And as you can see here, the picture number one is the care of people, of patients waiting to be registered in a BCP. And the other one actually is the people who had already been registered and is waiting to take the blood test. So if we wanted to reduce this time of 15 minutes, which actually confirmed what we saw in the previous graph, then we needed to tackle these waiting times. So that's what we did. And we have a big focus on the first activity, the registration part. And we went deeply into the process and we break up the process in detailed tasks, which we classified as value added, not value added, well, MUDA, and we classified it. And what we saw actually is that we had a lot of mistakes in the first place. We had a lot of mistakes because the information coming from the customer system was not the same or was not updated with our system. So many times a person in the registration needed to call actually to get the right information, to confirm the data, to get the right code. And so that enlarged the time that the person was in this step of the process. Another reason, another reason that we found here in this step was also the lack of a standard in the data that I'm going to request to you and the process. For example, in the authorization, in some BCPs, actually, every patient was obliged to sign up the authorization. In the other ones, they didn't do it. So it is the same customer, it shall be the same procedure. So shall we sign it or shall we not? Let's just standardize our process. So with all this, actually, what we did, well, first of all, we updated the data. Let's say that was the first and immediate step. We updated the data so that what we have was equal to that the customer have. Reference of the code of a test, the price, or well, the different, let's say, specifications were updated. So that was the first major step. The second one, of course, was let's standardize our authorization process. Let's agree on what is needed and what is expected. And once we had that standardized, so we roll it up in the sites. And lastly, actually, we work a lot in our task, in our polyvalence, I'm sorry, because we saw actually that not all the people in the registration are in the registration process had the same, let's say, skill actually to call to the contact center, eventually to confirm one data or download the process. Well, the skill actually of the people were not updated. And so we work a lot also in this polyvalence and skill development program that we did. Here, actually, what you see in orange is all the tasks that we consider actually and that we classified as not value added but needed at some point. So we call it incidental. And well, 70% of the tasks correspond to this category. And what we saw here actually was the opportunity to systematize, to optimize, to improve. Actually, I explain myself. As 74% of our patients come from the same customer, and then we saw the opportunity to make an interface between their system and our system. That means actually that now, when a patient comes from this customer, I don't need to download the authorization, the data, and then manually register it into my own system, but the two systems connected each other, so I can just automatically get the data, and that of course reduce the time drastically. What else do we do? Now we went to look into the let's say into the taking blood part of the process, so the second part of the process. And here, this is one example that we did actually in one concrete site, BCP. We changed the layout. We changed the layout with the objective of increase the capacity that we have in the phlebotomist activity. So at the beginning, we had two main, let's say, phlebotomy boxes. And with the change that we did, we increased it to 3 phlebotomy boxes. Of course, this came also with a strong work on polyvalence and a skill development program in the phlebotomies. So with this, actually, we did that in the most critical site, in order to better adapt to our demand. Well, what we got, then we had the results now, and let's say, well, the first one, productivity, and here we measure productivity as number of patients that I can do in an hour, no, in an hour, in an FTE. And so at the beginning, we start, as you see here, well, around 500, 520, and now we are around 700, 750. We had a global increase together with all the sites of about 38%. And here, just let me say that this work that we did in these BCPs, actually in the southwest part of the country, it took at least 3 to 4 months. And as you see here, when we just start collecting data in April 22, we then updated our baseline at the beginning of this year, January 2023, and still we are sustaining our results. Even better, we are still improving our results. What else did we got? As our main challenge was to reduce time or increase the percentage of people which spent less than 30 minutes in our BCPs, then we built up an indicator. As I said from the beginning, we didn't have this information from the beginning. So we built it up and we started collecting the information systematically since October 22. And what we see actually is that ever since we have increased in the different sites our percentage of people in less than 30 minutes. We came from 40% and we are now around 96, 90, and 85 for the different sites. We are not yet in 97, which was our target. Nevertheless, there is an important improvement in this. Last but not least, we reduced the number of complaints. So we came from 0.49 to 0.16, and the same with the previous KPIs, we sustain our results. After this, actually, and talking with the customer, now they come the next steps, of course. And as a next steps, then agreeing with the customer, we are now just end up a transformation with the same customer, but as target in the northwest part of the country. So we are multiplying our learnings in this sense. And still 2024 is going to be a major focus, this time not for this customer in particular, but in general in all BCP network in Colombia. I forgot to mention actually as a result also that we implemented that we are now tracking our NPS, Net Promoter Score, and this of course is another source of information. So this is the Colombian case. This is the most structured case that we have in LATAM. Let me now just jump into Mexico and share a little bit about Mexico. Because here the scenario is very interesting because it has some particularity in the operation. So the context is the same. We want to reduce the time that the patients spend in the BCP, but in Mexico, the BCP does not only take the blood, as in most of the BCPs in all of the countries, but they are more like a medical center. So you can go and you can make a Holter, you can have an EKG, or different other, let's say, menu of tests that we do. So it seems more like a medical center. Of course, having that in mind, the time that the patients spend in a BCP is longer. Nevertheless, we did a Kaizen event, an improvement event of 3 days in this BCP, trying to understand where the waiting was and what the opportunities we have to improve in the BCP. And of course, we saw that there is still a huge percentage of time that the patients wait to be called for a test or for a blood test. So we wanted to reduce that. We also found that there is, again, there is a time waiting in registration, so that we wanted to tackle those two objectives. Again, we wanted to reduce and improve the patient's experience. So what happened? We did, as we do in Lean, we observe, we understand, and actually what we saw here is that the productivity in the registration changed a lot. It can change it a lot. It was not stable. It was a lot of variability in this productivity in the registration, mainly because customer coming from different, mainly because of the typology of the customer, because a customer B2B spent a lot more time than a customer B2C. So customer B2C could spend 5 minutes. I just come, I want a blood, an hemogram, a blood test, I just pay you, 5 minutes, I'm done. But a B2B could spend at least 25 to 30 minutes, depending also on the complexity. They call it compasse. Actually, it means have the pre-order or not. So depending on that, a customer from B2B could spend from 20 minutes to 30 minutes. So it was a lot of variability in the cycle time. So what we did here, we balance our inputs, as we cannot tell people what time to come to the BCP, not a B2C, for instance. So what we did actually was to balance our inputs, and we assigned different registration boxes for the typology of the customer. So now and from now on, for example, this box is going to see only B2B customer with pre-order, and this one is going only to register B2B manual, and the other one for B2C. Of course, this aligns with the demand on each of the sites. And we ran a first trial manually because we don't have the good digital system still. So we did it manually in that moment. And well, it seems to be good for now. Let's say we don't have, as I said, we don't have the result, but we are very positive on that. Now we are working on the good digital system so that it can be aligned to this organization. And the second thing that we start studying actually was why this person spent 30 minutes. It's a lot of time. And we found here actually the same problem that we saw previously in Cali, in Colombia, and is the authorization process was not a standard. So here we are already, let's say, enjoying now, enjoying of the learning from our colleagues in Colombia to reduce this time. What else? As I said, actually, we have in the BCP, we have a lot of tests like a Holter, a TKG, like mastography, well, different tests that we do in this BCP. And actually, we put that together into, let's call it menus. So I have a menu for women, a menu for men, a menu for an athlete, or a menu for a kinder, for a kid, I'm sorry. And so I sell menus. Yeah, I sell menus. And this is an example, actually, you see here in the first table, this is an example we call it checkup, a checkup number 1. This is what you can have, what you have in a checkup number 1, in the checkup number 2, and in the checkup number 3. So we need to schedule these checkups. So to schedule this checkup, actually, what we do is to break up the checkup and schedule by specialty. So I schedule the USG, the mastography, the coloscopy, and the densitometry. Why this for? Why this for? Because those are the ones which require a specific, let's say, training or a specific resource. So I schedule this one. So I break up my checkup and I schedule this one. Which the blood test, for instance, as I do not need a specific resource, medical resource, training resource, then I do it when I see the time. And with the X-ray, I do it when I have the time. So I just schedule this one. I see what I have the time, and for instance, this is patient number 1, but here you see again patient number 1. So this person has to wait until till 8:30 to, for instance, 30 minutes till 9 a.m. to have the second test. So that means already a wait of 30 minutes. Once I have all the schedule for the next day, then I print up an agenda. This is an example of an agenda that we printed. And then we made 3 copies, and we left one copy in the registration. The other one, I give it to the phlebotomist, and the other one, I give it to the specialist, to the doctor. And what happened then is that every one of these, let's say, functions start to decide whether I have the time to do the blood test. No, today I don't think that I can do it in 15 minutes. So I'd rather let that person waiting, and I see after when I can pass it. So it could result actually in a very quick and efficient patient time, but also it could end up in a lot of waiting, a lot of movement in the patient. So that's what we see here in the spaghetti that we did. For example, for this patient went 3 times to the medical boxes and then came back again for waiting in the waiting room. So what we propose here, and actually we first trial again during these 3 days, was to respect the value stream. My checkup is my value stream. So now I want to schedule my full value stream, my full checkup, and not break it up by silos. And so that's what we did. We did it manually. So we went together with the patient, walk with the patient through the different doctor room, let's say, test rooms, and then walk the person out. And we reduced the time by 87%, the waiting time by 87%. So drastically. That, of course, we need to confirm with more experimentation, let's say that. And also what we are now working on is to systematize that to modify our, let's say, to change our scheduling way of doing it in the system. So now we're working with IT to change that. That is going to take a little bit longer, but we are already on that. So those 2 elements, how we break the silo and respect the value stream. Having said that, yes.
We have just 2 minutes, okay?
Good. Just some learnings. My
Okay.
first learning, and is the most important for me, and the one I would like to make focus on, that is the sharing knowledge between the countries. Because as I said, we learn from Colombia, but now also with the balancing the registration boxes, we are now thinking about that to Colombia. So there is an exchange, continual exchange between the countries, and not only with Colombia and Mexico, but Peru and Ecuador, and also with our colleagues in Europe. So this is very enriching. I don't have to say that because it's clear for all here how we can improve by breaking silos, in this case in Mexico, and also with working with polyvalence, how we can engage and motivate people with that. And we see the results in the productivity. I'm done. I'm finished. Let me just share with you the team. This is a team here. It's in Mexico 1 month ago, and here in Colombia, in the southwest and northwest of the country, in Colombia, with our excellent and phenomenal team. So thank you, everybody.
Andre, thank you so much. Good results and excellent journey. Thanks for sharing. We have 2 questions, but I don't have, I don't know if we have many time. Okay, maybe we can respond in turn. Thank you so
After the
much.
first,
Thank you
shall I
so
read
much.
it or?
Okay.
After the first Colombian case, it is faster to replay the
Faster to
improvement
replace
on
the
the other BCPs.
improvement. Yeah.
Yes, it has been actually, and we expect it to increase the speed on this year because now we have a more training team on that. We have a lot of, let's say, more experience and standards on that. So we are now expecting to deploy in all the country. We expect to touch at least 28 sites in this year. Who led the project and how do you work with BCP employees to implement the improvement? We started with a training, with a general training with all the phlebotomies, why we wanted to do this. And from the beginning, we involve all the team. Here, as you see in the picture, actually is the management team of the BCP and the full retail, for instance, in Mexico. We did this workshop with them, and then together we came to the phlebotomies and the BCP, and there we start all the training and all the magic, let's say. And from the beginning, we have them mapping the process with thinking and brainstorming about the improvement ideas with us.
Okay. Thank you so much, Andre. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you to you.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.